I'm Judy Zelina, and you're watching the Millcreek Government Channel. Love them or hate them, roundabouts are here to stay in Erie County. No matter how experienced a driver you are, there's a pretty good chance you have no idea what to do when it comes to roundabouts. Face it, we're all used to traffic lights and stop signs. So joining us today to explain roundabouts, answer some questions, and hopefully alleviate some of our fears is Jim Carroll, and Jim is the Penndot District Press Officer, and Brian Smith, District Traffic Engineer. Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Oh, thank you for having us.
Well, you know what? As we were talking earlier, roundabouts, big buzzword, especially right here in Millcreek Township. So what I'd like to do is just kind of ask you guys a question, like a general overview of roundabouts, and let our viewers know what they are and how they come about. So first off, I'm going to throw it out to both of you guys. What is a roundabout?
A roundabout is another kind of intersection.
Okay.
It's a intersection that's gained in popularity in recent years. We're not just building it, a lot of people are building them. And we think where they're appropriate, they're a safer and more efficient kind of intersection.
Okay, but why roundabouts? What real purpose do they serve?
Well, roundabouts, as opposed to traditional intersections, I mean, the main comparison would be to a signalized intersection. A roundabout carries about 30% more traffic during peak periods than a signal, because the delay that's associated with a signal, we've all driven up to signals where you time it just wrong, you stop, and there's no traffic on the opposing lanes. So you're sitting there waiting just for the cycle to end. It's not because of the traffic, it's just because of the cycle. Where a roundabout takes advantage of all time. As you approach the roundabout and there's an opening, you can slip right in, make your move, and get out. It's a very smooth operation.
So it's like you're always moving.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, here's what I wondered. How do you guys decide at an intersection if it needs a roundabout or a traditional, just the traditional stoplight? How do you make that decision?
Well, right now, we have guidance from the Federal Highway Administration that anytime we do a major reconstruction of an intersection, we have to at least consider a roundabout. And we've adopted that guidance as Penndot policy. So our engineers look at it and look at the engineering of it. If it'll fit as far as grades, as far as angles, as far as the geometry of the road and the community around the road.
Because they're big.
Yeah.
I mean, they're big.
They are.
They're just the four roads.
Yeah.
So you take all that into consideration also?
Yeah, there's two main things that I would look at.
Okay.
Does the roundabout, is it going to be more efficient? Is it going to move traffic better? Another thing is it going to address any safety issue that we have at the existing intersection? Because I guess we could get into statistics for the safety of roundabouts. They've been shown to reduce fatal crashes by 90% from standard intersections. They reduce injury crashes by 75%. They reduce pedestrian-related crashes by 30 to 40%, and bicycle crashes, I think, by 10%. So there's a reduction in safety all the way around.
Okay, but the cost, guys, isn't the cost of a roundabout as compared to a traditional intersection? What's the cost difference?
I think our experience so far has been pretty close.
Has it really?
Sometimes they're a little more, sometimes they're a little less. I think
Okay.
the one in Waterford costs about $2 million. And I think that's probably what we're seeing with single lane roundabouts. In some, it depends on the geometry and what we would have to do to put an intersection or rebuild an intersection. In Millfair, for example, we actually would have had to take more right-of-way for a traditional intersection. Instead of the property that we took around the roundabout, and people were compensated for that. We would have had to ask, take property on either side as we put in lanes for the traditional intersections.
Oh, so you could have turning lanes?
Yeah.
Okay, for safety reasons?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, you brought up Waterford. Now, wasn't Waterford the first roundabout in Erie County?
First roundabout in our district, yes.
Yes, that's what I thought. That's what I thought. Now, do you have any of those safety statistics to tell our viewers
Yes, we do.
for that particular one?
Yeah. That roundabout was built in August of 2014. So we have about 2.5 years of time,
All right.
in the books. And in that 2.5 years, we've had 4 reportable crashes. They've all been single vehicle crashes in which the person got into the roundabout and was either distracted by something in the car or some other reason and just ran into the curb. So they're really minor crashes. But the most telling statistics that we like about it is there were no injuries. So in those 2.5 years, we have no injuries at the intersection. But in the prior 5 years, we averaged about 5 injuries per year.
Did you? Well, I'm going to tell you that's a pretty bad intersection.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've gone through there. The roundabout, I've been through it, not a lot, but it does take a little bit of learning. There's a little bit of learning. If you've never done a roundabout before, like me, some people have, though. You have to remember, we have a lot of snowbirds who are down in Florida. They have them
yes.
down in Florida, New Jersey, different states.
New York.
Yeah, the Carolinas have them.
Yeah.
So I mean, they're all around.
Right.
So anyone who travels or have different homes or visits kids in different states have experience.
But if I could return to the safety aspect, my take on it is if you're in an accident in a roundabout, you're probably in a fender bender.
Okay.
At traditional intersections, there's much more of a danger of a violent crash, a head-on crash, a T-bone crash. You don't typically get those in a roundabout.
Okay. All right. That is nice to know. And is it the main reason probably because you are going slower
Everyone's going slower and in the same direction.
and everybody's yielding and sort of letting
and
everybody.
that's a good point.
work
An
their
experience we had in Roundabout in Waterford, people have to get a little bit of accustomed to it, and they have to realize the people in the circle have the right-of-way.
Okay.
The people entering the roundabout have to yield the right-of-way to the people in the circle.
Okay.
We've had people who are maybe just too polite, and they stop in the circle to let people in. And the roundabout doesn't work very well that way. So if the people in the circle take the right-of-way,
All right.
and the people coming in yield, it works very well.
Okay. So the safety statistics are really good on this Waterford roundabout. You have actual data to prove
Yes.
it has become a safer intersection.
Yeah, we're very
Absolutely.
pleased.
Okay, well, I'm glad to hear that. Okay, now, today's roundabouts are more sophisticated than the traffic circles from years ago, right?
Yes.
And how so? What's the difference?
I would say they're more, this is going to sound funny, but they're more sophisticated because they're simpler. They're constructed tighter. They're not so, the old circles were just a big free-for-all. The modern roundabout kind of channels you where you need to go. There's not a lot of decision making compared to the old circles.
So, okay, we've been talking about cars. How do you handle pedestrians and cyclists with the roundabout? How does that work for them?
It's better for pedestrians because the roundabout is constructed with what's called a splitter island between the lane. That gives refuge for the pedestrian to cross only one lane at a time, in which they only have to be concerned about traffic going in one direction. So they cross that one lane, they get to the splitter island, they can, stop there, then check for traffic in the next lane and continue across.
Okay,
You don't have to cross multiple lanes at one time.
all right. How do cyclists? How does it work?
Well,
for a cyclist in a
A
roundabout?
cyclist can either use a roundabout as a vehicle or a pedestrian.
Okay.
They have that option.
All right, so they can either or.
They can be a vehicle, or they can get off the bicycle and cross and encounter it as a pedestrian.
Okay, now here's a question. How does the roundabout handle buses or really large trucks? Do you have any problems with that?
No, they're designed to handle the kind of vehicles that are anticipated to use the intersection. So the radiuses are made big enough that they can easily maneuver.
So when I'm driving my semi,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have no problem when
No
I come
problem
to
at
your.
Well, if you look at the Waterford roundabout, you see
Okay.
the paved lane where the cars go. You also see a brick appearing area inside. That's designed for trucks to put their rear tire up on that. That's designed for trucks to go up on that if they need more room.
Oh, okay.
So the trucks don't have to fit in that little lane for cars. If they're making the truck, a bus or whatever,
Right.
they're making that turn, their rear wheel or their front wheel can go up on that island in the middle.
Okay.
Not the grass area, but the graded brick area, and that helps big trucks, big loads. We haven't had a problem with it, I don't believe, in Waterford.
Now, here's a question I wanted to ask. How do you see older drivers adjusting to roundabouts?
That's a real good question.
It is.
What we have found is it has more, being comfortable using a roundabout has more to do with just driver experience. The more time you have behind the wheel, the more comfortable you are. We've seen nothing to suggest that older drivers have any difficulty with roundabouts.
So see, experience matters.
Yeah.
There's something to be said for being an older driver, I'll tell you that.
And also, I think the statistics would show that older drivers have to be careful at traditional intersections. Our eyes don't take in the light as well as they used to. We may not see a car coming without its headlights on.
Right.
So that they are, they need to take a bit more care at these traditional intersections. A roundabout helps avoid that for them.
I think a suggestion for younger drivers would be, if they're learning to drive or a new driver, to experience a roundabout, because we're going to be getting more and more. Let's
Sure.
face it.
Yes.
You know, and I think they need to know how to work these two, because it is different. I mean, it really is. I think it's a little bit of a learning. You're going to be cautious when you approach too, but right now, as we speak, as we're taping this show, you guys are in the process of constructing the roundabout at Millfair and Route 5. Couple questions on that. First off, is it going to be a single lane roundabout?
It is,
Okay.
yes. Similar to the one in Waterford.
All right. Okay. And the timeline. Like, what are you doing? Okay, right now when we're talking, what point are you, and what's your timeline that you see it's going to be up and running?
It's part of what we call our Millfair Road Improvement Project. We're improving that corridor. We're putting in 2 bridges over the railroad tracks so the cars and trains will no longer be at the same grade.
Okay.
They'll be grade separated. We're putting in intersection improvements on Route 20 to the south. And we think that's going to make it a busier road. And the roundabout on Route 5 will be a help when that happens. Right now, the project is getting underway. I think our first season, I believe it's a 2-year project. The first season will focus on the bridges and some work on Millfair Road, I believe, and some work on the roundabout. But the roundabout itself, I think, is scheduled for 2018.
Okay.
And the project is expected to be completed by the end of the 2018 construction season, I believe.
Well, I think the bridge over Millfair is going to generate a lot more traffic, because really at this point, the clear shot is Asbury. Powell we had to reroute because of
Yeah.
the airport. So a lot
And
of
that was the genesis of this project, with the questions about Powell. Motorists, officials, emergency services were concerned about having
Right.
enough north-south.
exactly.
So we wanted to widen Asbury but those 2 railroad bridges proved insurmountable. They were just too expensive. So we did some improvement and capacity improvement on Asbury, but then the thought among our planners was, we'll take some of the money we haven't spent to that and devote it to Millfair and give the community that north-south
Another.
capacity that we
Okay.
weren't able to deliver here. And so that was sort of the genesis of the Millfair Road.
Well, I'm familiar with the bridge project because, of course, I have my Millfair Compost Center right there on Millfair Road, which, of course, it was a concern of mine, and I met with you guys and made you promise me that everything was going to be okay for Millfair. But I can see it's going to be generating a lot more traffic. I can see the need for it.
Yeah.
I've seen the backup with trains. I've seen, especially right there, when you've got the 2 trains, that they'll actually stop and hold up traffic for quite a while.
And I know people look at that intersection and say, what, it's fine, it doesn't need anything. But when we're planning a project like this, we not only have to plan for conditions today, but what they may be 20 years out. So-
Right, and I think it's going to become very popular. And actually, what I want to point out too, it's a pretty big undertaking because you're actually going to be rerouting Millfair over to the west a bit, and then over, right?
Yes.
You said 2 bridges?
2 bridges, one over the Norfolk Southern tracks and one over the CSX tracks.
Oh, okay.
I think they're both 115 feet long.
All right.
And then on Route 20, we're adding turn lanes from Route 20 onto Millfair,
Oh, that's going to be smart. That's a good idea.
the center turn lane dedicated.
Right. Yeah, because they can use the turn lanes even right now, so I'm glad you're going to be doing that down
Yeah.
the road. So there's a lot of work going on right in that corridor.
Yes.
And that's why it's warning, because you guys, you engineers are looking that with this bridge, it's going to generate so much more traffic, and Millfair in Route 5 could become a very big problem area, right?
Right. Right now, the intersection wouldn't warrant a signal, but we are anticipating at some point down the road that it could reach those warrants.
Okay.
But by putting in a roundabout, we may, alleviate traffic problems enough that we
All right.
may, never need a signal.
Okay. When someone's coming on to a roundabout, are there warning signs?
Oh, yes.
What do they say? Upon approach, what am I going to be able to view to help me get through this roundabout safely? What signs do you guys put up?
I guess the main thing you're going to see is a yield sign
Okay.
as you approach. And also, as you get to the point where you're going to merge in at the yield point, you'll see a one-way sign directing you to go to the right, because it operates in a
all goes to the right.
counterclockwise
Okay.
fashion.
All right.
So those are the 2 main
Yeah, and
things.
before you get to the roundabout, you'll see a sign that's like a diagram
Okay.
of which lane goes where.
All right.
You'll see that at Waterford.
Okay. All right. And so that's going to be up there at Millfair too.
Yes. Yes.
And like I said, I mean, people, you're going to have to practice, not be afraid. Learn to be comfortable with the roundabouts, because, like I said, love them or hate them, they are here to stay in Erie
Well, if
County.
I could point out the experience of Carmel, Indiana. It's a city about the size of Erie,
Okay.
but they have 100 roundabouts. They just built their 100th roundabout, and most of any in the country. An interesting tidbit, they estimate
Oh, wow, 100 roundabouts?
100 roundabouts. They estimate their roundabouts save on average of 24,000 gallons of fuel per year per roundabout. Now they have on much bigger, heavier traveled roads than we do. But if we even have a quarter of that, 6,000 gallons of fuel per year savings, that's a savings for people, it's a savings for the environment.
Well, any of our viewers here, if they need some more information or they want to read more about it, where would you direct them that they could learn a little bit more about the roundabouts and just some information, some frequently asked questions?
Sure, I think our webpage has a good deal of information about roundabouts. The Federal Highway Administration webpage has a good deal of information
Okay.
on Roundabout. They could call myself or Brian. We would be happy to talk to them about it, or steer them to their webpage where they could find information about it.
Okay, and your website, it's penndot.gov.
Penndot.gov/District 1. We have an easier way to get there. Our website has information on construction projects. We try to keep them updated, tell people what's going on,
Okay.
and maybe where the detours and traffic restrictions are. I could also put in a plug for the website 511pa.com, which shows people all of our roads, traffic flow in real time, where roads are closed, where they're restricted, what the winter road conditions are, any advisories, any restrictions. It's a very cool site.
And when you do get to, like I said, when you do the penndot.gov, like you said, going to District 1 is going to give you everything that's right in your backyard if you're traveling.
It is, yes.
Locally. It's,
Well, we hope
it's
so.
really interesting. It is. Yes, I'm on your website.
Good deal.
Yes,
Thank you.
I am. But I want to thank you guys so much for joining us today. I think we kind of covered most of the questions that people have been asking.
I hope so.
Is there anything that I didn't ask that you think might be pertinent to our viewers?
No, other than people all over the country are becoming accustomed to roundabouts.
Right.
And I know there's apprehension. I know there's concerns of what this is going to be, how am I going to do it?
It's changing, you know how much we love that.
Many people have, and I think once people encounter one and get accustomed that first or second trip through, I think it'll alleviate a lot of those concerns.
Yeah. And then viewers, like I said, check out their website. Their website, Facebook. You even have stuff on Facebook too.
Yes.
So yeah. So they've got the information out there. Guys, thank you so much. Thank you, Brian, for
Judy.
joining us. Jim, it's always a pleasure.
Thank you, Judy.
You always have something interesting to talk about. It's not just removing snow, right? Or patching potholes.
No, but those are two pretty big subjects for us.
They are.
Yeah.
They are, but there's a lot more
Yeah.
to what you guys do. And I thank you. You guys do a good job. And
Thank you.
I thank you for taking the time to let our viewers know
Absolutely.
about what's going on in our own backyard.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, viewers, thank you for tuning into the Millcreek Government Channel. Jim and Brian were very informative and answered some important questions. Now, I'd like you to please stay tuned because we have a brief video demonstrating roundabout usage that I think you viewers will find very helpful. So until next time, have a wonderful day.
During your travels, you may have come across one of the many new roundabouts across the Commonwealth and maybe even in your hometown. Roundabouts provide for increased capacity of vehicles through an intersection because they allow traffic to continuously flow, yielding only until a gap in traffic is available. Here in Pennsylvania, where intersections were converted to roundabouts, fatalities and major injuries were significantly reduced, as were moderate and minor injuries. So how does a roundabout work? When approaching and entering a roundabout, motorists should slow down and be prepared to yield to pedestrians in the crosswalk. Once at the yield line, motorists should look left to check for approaching traffic within the roundabout. Remember, circulating traffic has the right of way. When there is a safe gap, motorists may enter the roundabout. Once a motorist has entered the roundabout, they proceed to their exit point. As they approach their exit point, motorists should use their right turn signal. Upon exiting the roundabout, motorists must be aware of pedestrians and be prepared to yield to those on the crosswalk. How do multi-lane roundabouts work? Multi-lane roundabouts work similar to single-lane roundabouts. The only difference is picking the correct lane prior to entering the roundabout. If a motorist wants to make a right turn, they must be in the right lane unless otherwise marked. Motorists wishing to travel straight may be in either lane unless otherwise marked. When turning left or making a U-turn, motorists must be in the left lane unless otherwise marked. Once a motorist is in the proper lane for the direction they wish to go, they may approach, circulate, and exit the roundabout as they would a single-lane roundabout. Do not change lanes within the circulating roadway. Motorists using the inside lane should only cross the outside lane upon entry and exit. What should you be prepared for when driving in a roundabout? Motorists should be prepared for anything, especially emergency vehicles, large trucks, bicyclists, and pedestrians. When emergency vehicles are approaching, do not enter the roundabout. Pull to the side. If you are in the roundabout, exit at your intended exit, then pull to the side. Do not stop in the roundabout. Motorists should be aware of large trucks in a roundabout. There is typically a truck apron provided around the center island for truck trailers to track onto. The aprons are meant for the trailers of large trucks to traverse as needed. In many multi-lane roundabouts, trucks may need to use more than one lane. Motorists should not attempt to pass trucks in a roundabout. Motorists should watch for bicyclists, as they may maneuver through the roundabout as either a pedestrian or a vehicle. Motorists must never overtake a bicyclist in a single-lane roundabout and must help keep pedestrians safe. So how do pedestrians and bicyclists navigate a roundabout? Pedestrians should always use the sidewalks and look to the left for approaching vehicles when they've reached the crosswalk. When vehicles yield, cross the street to the area between the splitter islands. It provides a refuge between opposing lanes of traffic. Finally, look right for approaching vehicles, and when vehicles yield, cross the remaining lanes of traffic. Pedestrians should never cross within the circulating roadway. When bicyclists approach a roundabout, they have options. They may occupy the appropriate lane and navigate the same as motorized traffic, going in the same direction following the same rules. They should use right turn hand signals when necessary and occupy the middle of the lane. They should not hug the curb. Cyclists may also walk their bicycles around the roundabout within marked pedestrian crosswalks. Thank you for taking the time to learn more about Pennsylvania's modern roundabouts. Learn more about roundabouts at penndot.gov.
You're watching the Millcreek Government Channel, powered by WQLN Public Media.